Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a singer-songwriter hailing all the way from Liverpool. Her name is Mary Hennessy. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here, excited to see what we're going to talk about as well. How are you
Happy to have
doing?
you here. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Happy to have you here. Obviously, as I said,
Nice.
been following your stuff for a couple of years now, and feel like you've kind of like stepped it up a gear. I don't know, creatively
I hope
speaking,
so.
maybe there's something there that's changed. But before we get into all of that, I want to kind of just like take it all the way back and sort of talk about like how you kind of got into music and songwriting in general, because I think there's always an interesting story there from person to person. So how did you get into it all?
Um, Sort of like, well, I mean, I've played guitar. Like, I only really play guitar acoustically since I was maybe like 11 or 12, but I never really understood the guitar at all until I properly 19, 20. And then before that, when I was about like 15, I used to really enjoy writing poetry. I don't as much anymore, but then that sort of like gradually developed into like songwriting. And I think my first like song that I wrote was maybe when I was about 17, probably like posted it on YouTube or something. I can't even remember which one it was for sure, but I think it sort of came about from those two things sort of like coming together.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's quite a similar sort of story that I think most
Yeah,
musicians have, isn't it? You know,
definitely.
you find yourself kind of playing around with stuff. It's the same for me. I traded
Yeah.
my bike when I was like 11 for a
Oh.
guitar, and then obviously back in those days, um, the internet was still in its like its sort of infancy. Like there were
Yeah.
stuff online, but like online guitar, for example, wasn't what it is today.
Oh yeah.
So I was just sort of learning with chord books and hopelessly failing and such. Um, but yeah, like it's just like you're just a lot
Yeah.
of the time it's experimentation, really, isn't it? Um, and one thing I found very interesting,
Yeah,
which
definitely.
like it's interesting because, and maybe it's just certain parts of the country, but there are like particular cities that seem to breed like a lot of musicians. Like right now, I'm in Manchester. Obviously, don't need to tell you about the cultural impact there from a music standpoint, but you're in Liverpool, and you know Liverpool gave
Mm.
us the Beatles, for example,
Yeah.
and what I find interesting is that you're still getting a lot of amazing acts coming through Liverpool and Manchester. For example, I found a really, really good artist from Liverpool called, I think, Strawberry Guy is his name, something like that.
All right.
And similar to yourself,
Yeah.
making moves on places like TikTok and then kind of
Hmm.
ended up touring, etc., etc. So I guess like, what my question to you is like,
Mm.
could you talk us through Liverpool's kind of current music scene and how it compares with the history? Because obviously it must be. I know, like even from people I know from Liverpool, it is sometimes quite tiresome. People going on and on and on and on about the Beatles. I know there's like a tourist shop every 5 meters in Liverpool, but like from your perspective as a musician, like how do you interpret it?
Yeah. I mean, I love the Beatles, so I'm always happy to have that reference point there. But with the music scene in Liverpool, it's definitely really like, I mean, I'm sure it's like this in other cities, but maybe because it's like a smaller city, I guess it's just really like community based, and you can find loads of like helpful things if you're an independent artist as well. If you just like literally like look at the right places on stuff. One example recently, I did this thing with like Sound City, which was like this free like 10-week course where you could sign up to it. And maybe there was like 10 to 15 of us who got into the course, and it was really good. Like each week, like a different guest speaker would come in from like a different facet of like the music industry, and like you could just ask all like the questions you have, because sometimes I think it's hard to find the info you need to sort of like just take that little step further, because it can just be really confusing. And sometimes I don't know, like people can like gatekeep, or like
Mm.
I don't know, it's just like a weird environment sometimes. But there's just loads of things like that, like people are just so willing to like help you out. And people are so willing to like answer your questions if you have any, and just be really supportive. I've found with music stuff in Liverpool, and yeah, it's nice to be able to like reach out to someone and ask for their support, or like see if you want to support them doing a show, because I'm like trying to get into doing more live shows in a minute because I'm super
I
inexperienced with
want to
that.
hear.
Yeah, I really need to like hopefully get good at that and just figure out what I want the different live sounds to be. But I found loads of help there as well with like local Liverpool artists, and it's really nice because it can be quite like daunting and confusing because sometimes I don't know, it feels like everyone, like not everyone, but I mean some people just really know what's going on in the music scene, like with the live stuff as well. And if you're just getting into it, it's really important to just have people there to sort of like teach you things and make you aware of how things work and stuff. So I found that people are super helpful.
It's
It's
good to
nice.
hear. I have to say, like, because I started doing music like properly when I was about 17, 18, and I did
Yeah.
it on and off for years, and I did the whole
Mm.
circuit growing up in London and stuff.
Oh
And
well.
what I've noticed, and this again, this was like 10 years ago, the live scene
Yeah.
and the way that is approached is more or less somewhat the same. Like certain things will be a
Mm.
little bit different, but it's mostly the same. But like the industry itself and how you get into it and how you set yourself up, totally different. You know, like back in my day, it was back in my day, it was all just like, you know, giving out EPs, trying to just play as much as possible, hopefully
Yeah.
maybe get noticed, maybe get signed. And I feel like now, as an artist coming in, obviously you've got more options, but as far as like looking at it from a business perspective, it really depends what your individual goals are. Because I've had a lot of musicians on the show, and like their goals have been different. Like some are trying to get that big record contract, others are
Mm.
very happy with the independent kind of route, and that seems to be more, I guess, the desired route, because as an artist you get to keep full control of you know your work, and obviously you know you're looking more to maybe that distribute your music versus, because obviously like signing with a major label gets you access to other
Yeah.
things like marketing, exposure,
For
etc.
sure.
But you can do that yourself, and that kind of brings me to one, well, the way that I discovered you, which is TikTok.
Mm.
So I guess there's a few questions I could ask you on that, but let's start with like your kind of just thoughts on that from a music perspective. Like,
Mm.
how do you view TikTok as a tool for musicians?
I think it is kind of incredible how it like it's like kind of like free marketing. I don't know, like you can just post whatever you want yourself and like have the like potential to reach like a whole bunch of people, so many people from all like different parts of the world. There's no like limit on like how much you can post or what you can post. You can sort of just decide that for yourself. I think it's good as well. Like I've defo like even when you just as like you know a consumer on TikTok scrolling for the For You page or whatever, there's just like so many like musicians and like artists and creative people posting stuff on there. You could just forever be like discovering people on it. So I think I mean I know like the music industry like is super like oversaturated and stuff, and it can be like hard to find people you like or just kind of good creators in general. With all like the scares that go on about TikTok getting like banned or like copyrighted or whatever. I don't even know if any of that's ever gonna come like to be true. But I don't know. I definitely just like encourage anyone to sort of take advantage of it because I mean TikTok for me, like just you can just post silly stuff as well. Like you can just like take the pressure off. You know what I mean? It's just helped me kind of like find like a new audience and new people. Like I don't know, it's seems a lot easier to reach people than like YouTube and Instagram maybe, or maybe I'm just using those other social media tools just wrong. But yeah, I think it's great. I like
I
it.
I have to say, like, your approach to it is quite interesting. I've seen a few musicians like yourself approach it in
Mm,
a similar way, which is that
yeah.
like your personality seems to come across quite a lot in what you choose to put forward. Like
Mm.
I can't exactly put like a descriptor on it. Maybe it's kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to like commit to one specific thing and then have to put it back. But it's like I discovered your videos through just like, you know, you'd be playing a particular riff or something, and
Mm.
there's like a vibe, like a kind of
Oh,
chill kind of vibe in the air,
well, that's
which
cool.
that comes across. And it kind of, I feel like that's
Nice.
good as well because it gives you an idea of, okay, this is what this artist might be like if I was to
Mm.
see them live as well. It's kind of like an intimate kind of vibe, something a bit different. And obviously, you mentioned there
Yeah.
about the industry being oversaturated, so you're always looking
Mm.
for people that are offering
Yeah.
something a little different. But as you mentioned there, the way you approach each social media platform totally different. And I don't know, I feel like the way that you're doing
Yeah.
it is like spot on. For example, and this prompted me to get in touch with you because you dropped this track.
Yeah.
It's only me to blame, and I heard like maybe 20
Yes.
seconds of the chorus, and
Mm.
you were just doing like a dance to it or something.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I could see a lot of people using this because it's got like that kind of
Mm.
hook that like draws you in. But that's all you need. Like some of the best songs
Yeah.
I've discovered over the last 2 years have been because I heard 20 seconds of a hook, like either as part of a trend or I don't know, sometimes it'll even be something totally unrelated, but they just happen to continuously use this
Mm.
particular trend, so particular music for it. So I don't know, I guess my question with that is like, what's your kind of like approach or mindset to
Mm.
like clipping up and approaching YouTube? Sorry, not YouTube, TikTok videos. That is there a particular mindset with it,
Yeah.
or is it just kind of like this to see what happens?
Um, I feel like it definitely has changed from what it used to be, or I'm still deciding on how to like post the best stuff. Don't know if that's the right word to use on there, like the right stuff maybe. But definitely you find little things that work, like with what you were just talking about then, of like using the hook, keeping the video short, like having like text on the video, having like, like a face in the video. And as well, I think that song is definitely more like hookier, just like catchier, probably better than the other songs. So maybe that's why that one is sort of like worked a bit better with that use of TikTok. Um, but I feel like I find little things that work, but then I get like sometimes I take it well too seriously where I'm like I don't want to be like post the same things, blah 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 blah. But then I'm literally like, what am I doing? Like it's an app. Like I don't even remember what I just saw like on TikTok like this morning or the other day or whatever. Like I think it's good to like be a bit chill about it and a bit like silly with it. Like I used to I think when I first started posting on TikTok, it would be like, okay, I'm gonna do covers, learn songs on the guitar, post that because that was like familiar to people. I know I enjoy watching covers. It's a thing that maybe will get someone watching and hopefully introduce them to my music if they like it. But then I feel like I'm doing less covers now, and like you were saying, trying to put more of my like personality into it, and even that can be a bit tricky sometimes because it's like then you just get like insecure in yourself and you're like, oh God, oh, I don't want to be like cringe or weird. And then it's literally like, no, stop taking it seriously again. I need to just be like chill with it. And that's definitely the best way that I can like upload videos on there because it's just, it's TikTok. I need to remember that.
I hear you, man. I just use it as an advertising tool. Like
Yeah,
I built
same.
I built my community there. I brought them over to Twitch and to other
Yeah.
places, and I've built it up over time. And I still pop over there every once in a while. But yeah,
Mm,
it has changed a lot, and it's kind of sad.
mm,
I mean, I don't want this show to be all about TikTok, but since we're talking about it,
yeah.
um, it's just all about money now. And don't get me wrong,
Mm,
I realize it's a business, but like I don't get that vibe as much on the other apps. Like, yeah, I know YouTube, it's just endless advertisers and
mm,
Instagram, kind of the same thing. But at least like when you're using those apps, it's not like thrown in your face every 5 seconds. Whereas
yeah.
like obviously as a creator, I mean, I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but like when you log into like your dashboard, or even if you just look at the notifications, it just says it's like 15 different ways you can make money, and it's like great, but like maybe I just want to like promote some stuff to my audience or
Yeah.
like interact with them. Like not everything
Hmm.
has to be about money, you know. And it just I don't know, it drives me nuts
Hmm.
because I mean I got the app in like I don't know 2019, 2020. I didn't really understand what it was. Like most people, I figured like, oh, this is just for the younguns. This isn't for me. I'm like way too old for this, and so I just kind of like didn't really take it too seriously. And then obviously the pandemic hits, and it's like, all right, well, I don't know. Everyone's using this. Screw it.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of fun. And then like over time, you start seeing like creatives using it and using it successfully. And I was like, huh, okay, maybe there's room for me to do something here because in my own life it's acting and music and etc.
Mm.
And I've seen a lot of people do it successfully. And now we're at a point where that's kind of past, and it's like there's this big battle on the app because you've got all these people doing like these god awful, like I don't even know what to call it, like these. I'm sure you've seen this NPC AI thing lately.
Oh
Where
God.
it's just like someone, and I'm like, I don't know, like they get gifted like an insane amount of money to
Um,
I don't even know to do what. And I'm thinking like that money could go to someone talented like Mary, who actually has a talent that you could enjoy. But no, they'll people will give their money away to these idiots. And I don't know, you can make the argument people, they spend the money on whatever they want to spend it on,
yeah.
fine. But I don't know. I just try to focus on what I'm doing and what
Yeah.
the people I like are doing. But I don't know. I don't know how long this app has to last, but
I
might as
know.
well get the most out of it.
Mm,
um,
definitely.
but anyway, moving on. One thing I'd really like to know is what are your kind of goals in the music industry? Because
Yeah.
as I mentioned at the top of this, the industry's changed a lot now, and as a musician, it's a lot trickier to make money now compared to how it used to be. Not impossible. There's plenty of ways, but a lot of the ways of making money now will be to
Mm,
do with getting on the gig circuit and getting those bigger shows or selling merchandise or just trying to get as many streams as possible. But even with that, like ironically, what used to be the key selling point, how many records you sell, or I guess now how many streams you get, is no longer really like the main way that people get money in this
yeah.
industry. Like the whole thing is flipped on its head. So, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve with this?
Yeah. Um, definitely just getting to a point where like I have some sort of like consistent audience or consistent reach because that's just so hard to like break through in that way. Like even on a like smaller scale, that would just be like ideal. But oh, like I know what you're saying. It's so hard to get like into the music industry, and there's just so many different ways you can go about it. And even then, it's not like a guaranteed like linear way of like having a career. I think you've got to sort of have like multiple sources of income you're doing. Hopefully, that all relate to music in some way if you want to, make money off of it. But I definitely love to be able to get to the point where like I'm in music in some way. Like obviously the main thing is just being like a composer, writer, sort of like independent artist type thing. Um, but it just feels, I don't know, sometimes like it is that kind of like never ending struggle just because there are like so many people making music. Like there's so many people to listen to. Like I couldn't even like name all the like artists I've even like downloaded on Spotify or whatever because it's like you go on the app, maybe like listen to all the playlists. Sometimes you don't even know what you listen to and you just enjoy it. I don't know. It's hard,
No,
but
no, I get what you
yeah,
mean. Like, I'll
mm,
interject just for a second, but like,
yeah, yeah.
obviously, when we were growing up, how old are you now? Were you like
24.
24? Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
30. I've got a few years on you, but I imagine you probably might have experienced music the same way growing up. That you listen to the whole records, or
Yeah.
you would use things like iPods and Spotify. Sorry, not Spotify. the earlier equivalents of that.
Yeah.
But like you'd still listen
Mm.
to like full length
Yeah.
records. But as you said, now it's totally different. Like I will go out of my way personally to listen to all those songs, but that's just how I grew up with music. But now I get it. It's like you just hear a song that you like as part of a wider thing, but you
Yeah.
probably don't even maybe even know the names of the artists or tracks unless
Exactly.
you like consciously go out and a search for that.
Hmm.
But I suppose you could also make the point that there are just different types of fans of music, aren't there? There's casual
Yeah.
fans, and then there's your dedicated fans, your gatekeepers, your people
Mm.
that are musicians. I feel like musicians, when you're a musician, your interpretation, the way you approach it's different as well. Like it's like I'll give you an example. I'm sure you probably felt this too. Do you ever get that feeling like when you go to a gig and obviously you've not performed in a long time and you're just kind of like, ah, oh, I wish it was me. I wish I was on the
Yeah. Yeah.
stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, oh, like because you're ready. You're like, I can do it now, but like
Yeah.
it's not your
I know what you
moment.
mean. Yeah.
It's I don't know. Maybe that's just a weird ego thing, or maybe it's just like wanting to the need to perform. I don't know. It's
Mm.
within you, but yeah. Point is, it's always there. I think, and
Yeah.
I suppose finding your place in the music industry is important as
Yeah.
far as like knowing how to interact with it. Um, and again, I want to kind of focus more on you because I think like you're a shoo-in because you've got this unique persona, which I don't want to make you feel awkward because I'm sure it's just your personality, but like that's what differentiates you. That's always the draw is because if you're just doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, then it's
Yeah.
a tadpole in an ocean. But if you're doing something a little bit different, it differentiates you. And I can't really think of anyone I would compare you to, which is great. It's a
Well,
good thing, right?
it's cool.
Like I wrote in my notes here, you have a pretty unique and laid back vibe. Do you often get told this? Let's start there.
Um, that's a good question. I think yeah. To be honest, people do say that. I mean, I don't know if it's because maybe it's because I'm like really like anxious. I can get like socially anxious as well in like certain social situations, but then others like not at all. So maybe I'm just like sort of like chill in the corner, like trying not to be too, I don't know, in the middle of things. But yeah, I feel like I mean I like to think I'm easygoing and like kind of always trying to think of like understanding the perspective of the other person because it can be really easy to just like, I don't know, be too serious about something or get annoyed or get wrapped up in your own thoughts and kind of like not consider what other people are sort of thinking and feeling or what their context is. And then sometimes if you think like that or try to remind yourself to think like that, it can kind of like calm you down. I don't know. I think it's nice to just, yeah, to just be chill and just like, it's okay. It's fine. I don't even know if that like made any sense or if I articulated things in a way that made sense. But like, yes, hopefully I
No.
did.
What do people in the comments section normally say? What's the kind of general
Oh,
feedback you're getting from your fans?
I don't know, 'cause I get like the main comments I get are when it is on TikTok and maybe the video's done a little bit better than the other ones, and then the comments sort of come in. I don't even know. I could try find some, so I can't even think any on the top of my head. But like I don't even know. Oh my god, my brain is like so awful. I'm trying to think. Trying to like do a brain game, see if I can think of any. Um yeah, definitely maybe the ones where I'm being a bit sillier, kind of get more interaction, more people like, oh yeah, I'll check this out, or they're kind of like liking the sort of overall vibe. But I'll probably after this, I'll probably go back and look at that now and like look out for that. That's interesting.
Okay, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. So inevitably, as a musician, as a creative, you put yourself out there. Sometimes you get
Hmm.
some not so pleasant comments. How do you approach that? What's your kind of
Mm.
approach to criticism?
Um, it's definitely. something that has only been a recent thing where
Hmm.
I think I've only had like, I mean, I want to say like videos pop off, but it's not as if they've got like hundreds of thousands like views or anything like that. So it's usually on the ones that have more views, maybe there's literally like one or two comments of just like a troll or just like a person who didn't like it or didn't get the like joke or the song or whatever and just decided to like spend time telling me why they didn't like it's like okay, but I think when I read it I'm like it's kind of cool. I don't know, I find it kind of cool but also funny, and also sometimes obviously like maybe it would hurt but I like want it to hurt, you know what I mean, because then I can sort of just get over it because I feel like it just doesn't really matter. I mean, what would really hurt is if like obviously someone like proper just like ripped apart like the music of the song, like told me why it sucked, and then I'd probably be like crying alone for 3 days. But defo, yeah, I'm fine with them. Invite them in because hopefully that means the video or the music or the reach is doing well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've had a very love hate relationship with hate comments over the years, and
Mm,
for the most part, I always say like if it's constructive, great, brilliant, you can learn from it. Um,
for sure.
like I received one on my acting the other day, and I looked at it, and
Mm.
the guy was really pleasant, and I was just like, huh,
Oh wow.
okay, cheers, yeah, nice one. But mostly it will be just like horrible, like you're the shits, da, 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 da,
Oh, it's
you know.
no one know. It's
And
strange.
at the end of the day, I will say this: I want those kind of comments because
Mm,
I don't like the whole censorship. Like I think you
mm-hmm.
should be able to tell people that they are the shits if that's what you want. But but I don't know. I do think it's weird, isn't it?
Mm,
I don't know. Like if I don't
yeah,
like
it
something,
is.
I just scroll. I just move on. I don't feel the need to
No, I
tell the
know.
person.
I know.
I don't know.
It's
So
hard to grasp.
I wonder if it
One
comes.
of them.
It could be jealousy, I suppose.
Yeah.
It could be frustration.
Mm.
I had a troll in a live stream the other day, and
Oh,
I was just very like just having a good time.
yeah.
And I was just like, what's the end game here? And they just, I don't know, they tried to, I don't know what this. I think TikTok lives have changed now, so you get
Yeah.
like people who will put like a kind of like a strike thing on it, like they'll warn you like, oh, like it got flagged for like bullying and harassment, and I was like, that's bizarre, and all my audience is like, what?
Oh my God.
Because I was just asking this person, I was like, what's the deal, like what's the issue, and then
Yeah.
that got like flagged up, and I was like, right, okay, and I just kind of said,
What?
yeah, one of my mods like muted them, and then they left, and I just said like, well, hey, listen, if you're still here, like I don't have an issue with you. I don't take myself
Yeah.
too seriously. I take my work seriously, but not me. Um, hope you're doing all
Mm.
right, But I don't know. I think I think for the most part with the trolls and with the horrible comments, it is
Yeah.
jealousy. It is annoyance, frustration with people putting themselves out there, and maybe they wish they could do the same, or maybe it annoys them that people are trying, or sometimes people get like a snapshot idea of you,
Yeah.
and that's it. They're committed to that. They're like, this is what they think you are, and it's like, well, you don't know me. You've been here 5 seconds, or maybe you're projecting something. I don't know.
Mm.
But it's interesting because and I don't know, maybe you connect with the same thing, but like when you put your music out there, you write about things close to your heart, experiences, whatever, your perception of the world, and you put it out there. And it's like, I think for many artists, it's just a kind of, here's how I see things, here's just my thoughts and feelings. But it's not like you're forcing it to the world. You're not telling the world like this is how it is. It's just kind of
Yeah.
this is my art. This is what I think. And if people like it, great. And if they hate it, all right. But that's kind of good because art
Mm.
is subjective. Um, which kind of brings me on to the next point. With your songwriting, what's your process exactly?
Mm. Um. Oh, I never know how to answer this question. I think definitely if I've being good, and if I've been playing the guitar more every
Mm.
day, sticking with it, and if it also maybe coincides with like a feeling, like maybe I'm kind of like ruminating over something or like deep in my feelings about a certain thing, and then that always like inspires me to sort of like open up my like notebook and write stuff down, or I definitely am like, okay, I want to try and write something about this. Like, but I feel like sometimes I'm trying to get out of that where I'm like waiting for a feeling to happen and like waiting to be inspired to write something, because I know that's bad because you can like get out of the habit of writing. And if you're out of the habit of writing, it definitely, I think, kind of hinders it. You've got to keep it consistent and like just be there for yourself. And even if you're like writing something every day and it's all just like shit, then eventually, hopefully, you'll like something that you've written and maybe it's a little bit better, or like you think it's a little bit better than all the stuff you've kind of been writing. But defo, if I'm just in my feelings and if I've just been like playing around the guitar and then I'd sort of like put feeling that I'm feeling and then hopefully communicate that with like words through the song. Sort of that's usually the way I go about it. Mm.
Yeah, that's similar for myself as well.
Yeah.
Although I differ with you in that I go through like cycles. So right now
Yeah.
I haven't written anything in like 4 months.
Mm.
Um, Granted, acting's my focus and stuff, but
Yeah.
with music, I always feel like exactly like you when you're up in your feelings. Like for me, it's like therapy. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
instead of sitting and being depressed, I'm just going to put it into the guitar, and the
Yeah.
guitar can take the depression, and I can just, I don't know. But then that's weird as well because like there's these songs I wrote like 2, 3 years ago or even longer, and they'll be like about, I don't know, like breakup or like something really
Yeah.
horrible that happened, and there I am playing it like several years later, and like there's a disconnect in, or it's like an attachment thing where you feel it because you remember how you felt when you wrote it,
Mm.
but you don't feel that way anymore, and you've changed and you've grown since this
Yeah.
point. So then it's like kind of disconnected, and it's weird. Like I wonder, for example, what it must be like for someone like, I don't know, Taylor Swift, right? She wrote all these
Yeah.
breakup songs, and then like they become hits, and then so now like maybe 7 or 8 years later she's singing a song about some dude she dated like 10 years ago. And I wonder, like, does she ever think about like, oh, this is kind of weird, like still talking about this, like I'm a different person now, like what is it? Or maybe it's like full disconnect where you're just like,
Yeah.
it's just a song, it's a feeling, but I don't connect it to anything.
Mm.
Like, do you feel that way about your music? Does it connect to you like really, really personally, or is it just, thoughts and feelings contained within a song?
Yeah. I know what you mean with that. Like I definitely, the further I get away from a song, the more like I just feel like if I were to do it now, I'd definitely change it. For example, with the earlier songs I wrote more around the ages of like, I don't even know, 18, 17, 19. The lyrics sometimes make me feel really just like sick inside. I'm like, oh my God, like, I just want to like change them, but then you can't, I suppose, because that was like your brain and your sort of way of going about things then.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's defo, but it's kind of nice, like as well with some songs because it's like just reminds you of that like experience you went through or that time, and you can just like carry it with you if you want to carry on singing it or carry on
Mm.
having it be a part of your like discography or whatever. I definitely love that aspect to it. It's like a weird nostalgic thing because I'm
Right.
defo still attached to like loads of like old songs that I've written. But yeah, some do make me cringe. I'm like, oh, oh dear,
I
it's
do
not
I do
great.
similar to you, but I'll
Mm,
often, if it's an older song and I don't like the original composition, but like I'll never change the lyrics, but
yeah.
I might sing it or like perform it slightly differently, and
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Like, there's this
Mm.
a couple of love songs I wrote, like one of them I
Yeah.
wrote maybe like 9 years ago, and then the other one I wrote maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and I sing them totally differently now.
Mm.
But I've become a better performer in that time, so there's that element. But
Yeah,
right there with you, like it's like nostalgia. It's like putting
it
yourself
is.
back in that moment, and it's a weird feeling because now you're introducing something old to a new audience, and it's new to them, but to you, it's like golden oldie. Like
Yeah,
it's a weird feeling.
for
Um,
sure.
but I think it's good. You know, it's good to rework things. I always get a little bit
Hmm.
sad when artists sometimes completely change something. Excuse me, that
Yeah.
they used to do a certain way because often that becomes beloved by the fans
Mm.
and they want to hear it that particular way. Like, I give you a really good example. Have you heard this new Pink Floyd's like redo of Money?
No, what? When was that? When was that released? Was this like
Like,
really recent or?
yeah, like in the last couple of weeks,
Oh my God.
Roger Waters. Now, I will say this: I've looked into his more recent reworkings of songs, and he does them like totally differently, and
Yeah.
nothing like the originals. And that's his right, you know, it's his vision. Um,
Mm.
but it sucks. And I just being honest, like, and this new one. See, I don't mind artists trying
Yeah.
something different and doing reinterpretations of things, but like, I don't know if this was supposed to be like a statement. I guess it
Hmm.
is. Like, he added all like instead, for example, he took all the original like iconic solos
Yeah.
out of Money because basically he's doing a redo of or a redux or whatever of Dark Side of the Moon for its 50th anniversary.
Oh. Oh my
Right.
God.
And so he it comes out in like October this year, and
Wow.
he's released Money as the kind of titular track, like the introduction, and it's got everything removed. There's none of the cash register sounds. There's none of the
Wow.
iconic solos. Where the solos would be, it's just him going like, "Welcome to hell,"
Oh
like "Welcome to rooftops." Like, I don't know what the fuck he's on
my God, I
about.
need to listen to this. What the
Yeah,
heck?
it's 10 minutes of just I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't even know what to.
Yeah.
What do you call that? And it's ironic. Like, we were talking about criticism earlier, and like, shoot me, all right. The internet agrees with me. It's There's nothing wrong with trying something different and doing your interpretation of it. But like,
Mm.
This is what bothered me. Roger Waters said, "I'm essentially like." He's trying to kind of like readdress
Ah.
their original message. And he does say that like the original is great and brilliant and he's very proud of it still, etc. But this is to kind of expand upon what he said back then because I don't know, he guess he felt like the message wasn't really addressed
Mm.
properly, and like he's trying to do that now. But then when you listen to the track and you see what he's saying, it's like
Yeah.
really, I don't know, it's just like hyper political thing where
Yeah.
it's just like, oh.
Coming off a bit like a bit too much, like
I
too
mean,
forced or something. Or just
maybe.
like unaware or
I
just
mean,
like
I've seen a lot. Like, I mean, I'm not the world's biggest Roger Waters fan or whatever,
mm,
but like, I've seen some stuff in the media lately. Like, I saw at one of his live shows a while back. He did some
yeah.
stuff that was really like anti-Semitic or something. I
Did
don't know,
he?
something like that. I
Oh my
don't
God,
know.
I didn't even
Yeah,
know. That is awful.
it was mad.
And he like
I
what's he
mean,
trying to even like readdress as well if he's doing stuff like that? It's like it kind of
it's well, okay.
negates the whole thing, maybe.
I don't think
That's so
he
strange.
I don't think he himself is like necessarily like a bad person. He's just look, he's an older guy with I see it with a lot of musicians because I know I'm like that, you know, bagging on Roger Waters now. You see it with all sorts of people. It's
Yeah.
like Radiohead, like when they're like, "Oh, we're never going to play Creep, fuck Creep," like because you know that was, you know,
Yeah.
we're not that. We're this big. And look, I adore Radiohead. Okay,
Same.
but at the same time, look, that it's okay. You change your sound. You
Yeah.
know, bands find their sound, and that era of where they did Creep, that wasn't their sound. But there's some amazing tracks on that album, and
Mm.
Creep is outstanding.
Hmm.
But it's a shame that they feel that way. Like I feel like your progression over time is something you should be proud of. I mean, as you
Yeah.
spoke about with yourself, like you don't look back and think, oh, you know, or maybe you do think, oh, I wish I was this way, but then it's progression. It's
Yeah.
like over time, you grow as a human being, so naturally your music and your art is gonna grow because you get more
Exactly.
comfortable with yourself, you can articulate yourself better, etc., etc. But I don't know when artists go back and always like just try and change the past. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't get it. And okay, granted, Roger Waters isn't exactly like trying to say like this is the replacement, but he's trying to say like I guess like this is more in line with the vision that I had for the record. And I'm like, I'm just so glad that
Yeah.
we got the original and not this
Yeah.
because I think it's left a lot of people wondering like what is this? Like
Uh,
it's just I don't know. Like go check it out. Have a listen. See what you think. I don't
Defo. Oh, I had no idea about any of that. Like, I
know.
have so many. I just, yeah, I'm gonna listen to that today. I'm probably as confused as you. Like, what the heck is going on?
Well, a lot of art. I mean, I will say this: a lot of artists do this, and I don't
Mm,
think there's anything wrong with it, so long as you don't try to kind of like cancel out what you did before. So, like,
mm,
I think Paramore is a really good example of this. They started off as this like pop punk band, released some absolute classics, experimented a little by their third or fourth album, and then they fully transitioned to more like pop kind of vibe. And a lot of people didn't like it, but tough shit. Like it's what they want
mm,
to do, you know, and it's that's their vision, and then they roll with it. But they don't try and change the past. Same with Bring Me the Horizon. They changed drastically. They went from this really heavy metalcore sound to
mm.
pop metal, if that's even a thing. Apparently, it's a thing. I don't know. It's weird. But they experiment. They try different things, and but
Yeah,
they don't like try to like change what they were. They're proud of it. They're like, this is progression over time. This is what we want to try now, and this is what we did then. But we're more than happy to play these songs too, and we'll play them in the original manner. And I don't know.
yeah,
I feel like that is more fun for fans, certainly,
yeah.
because you can see that progression over time and you can enjoy the progression over time, you know. But I don't know.
Mm.
That's just my 5 cents on that.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. It is. I do know what you mean. Like I feel like with pop stars, I mean, to use like older examples, obviously with like David Bowie or like Madonna or something,
Yeah, great
where you can like
examples. Mm-hmm.
change your whole like visual aesthetic style, go with like the current like trends in like music or whatever, change your whole thing, do it really well, and then maybe your fan base can like follow you through that like change progression is so cool. But I know what you mean with like if you get if you discover an artist and then you find maybe like only one of their albums or something is like that particular sound and they did it really well and they do all the other sounds really well too. It would, yeah, that would hurt me as well if I knew they weren't gonna like perform those songs live or I'd never get the chance to see them live and I was like really super attached to them or that was like my favorite thing. Yeah, that would bum me out.
It's interesting you brought those two examples up as well, because with Madonna and David Bowie, essentially what they did every single time was reinvention. Every
Right.
album is, especially with Bowie, was a different
Mm,
character.
mm.
And what I found interesting about Bowie was that he would mix it up with his shows. So, like by the 90s, he was doing kind of more like dance
Oh,
style
right.
stuff. And he would often like divide his shows into all the new stuff. And then with the older stuff, he'd mix it up. So, a lot of it he might just play the original way, but other
Yeah.
songs he might kind of experiment. So, you might hear like, I don't know, the dance version of like Space Oddity or something.
Wow.
Yeah, but he wouldn't do like all of them like that because that would just be like pain, and I think he
Yeah.
realized that. Um, but I don't know. I feel like those artists get like less flack for it, whereas other artists do, which that
Yeah.
puzzles me because it's the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing. It's
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's and also you don't want to be boring because
Mm.
like okay, I can't believe I'm saying this, probably sacrilege, but sorry, metal fans. I love Slayer. I think Slayer is an absolutely fantastic band, but a lot of the records do sound the same. Not all of them. They did experiment a lot and they did try a lot of different things. So you can't say that they didn't try and reinvent themselves because they did. But what they did is kind of like if you were to look at it like a spiral, it like started out as like glam metal, believe it or not, and then it went
Wow.
to and then went to thrash metal, and then they did that for a few albums. And then in the 90s, they kind of jumped on the whole new wave of heavy metal vibe and tried a lot of different things. And that pissed a lot of
Mm.
people off. But again, I think for a band at that point that would have been going like 10, 15 years, you want to play something different. You want to play music that
Hmm.
is more interesting, challenging, different from what you play. You want to take some risks. And a lot of bands around the same time did that. And
Yeah.
then when they entered like the 2000s, they were kind of back to what they were originally doing. And then it just kind of became like quite samey after that. But there was
Mm.
still some classic tracks there. Maybe a better example might be like Motorhead, I think, maybe, because with Motorhead, a lot of it sounds very similar. It's all great, but it's you kind of you're getting a lot of the same. Um,
Mm.
and that's the other end of the spectrum. I think is that like if you don't take any risks, you risk kind of every record sounding somewhat similar and nothing really particularly standing out. Like when you think of Motorhead, you think of like, and this is more mainstream fans. I realize like actual Motorhead fans would be like, "What are you talking about? There's like hundreds," and I'm, hey, listen, I get it. They're great. I've seen them live. Amazing. Definitely one of the top 5 bands I've ever seen in my life. But as far as like identifiable songs that you could pick straight away, I feel like a lot of their earlier stuff, like early stuff, is the stuff that you'd pick out. Your Ace of Spades, Overkill,
Mm.
etc. You might not be as familiar with like some of the newer stuff that they've done. So I don't know. I feel like reinvention for an artist is important for fans because they get something
Mm.
different every time, and who knows where what kind of breakthroughs the artist might make. Also keeps it interesting for the artist because if the artist isn't interested, guess what? Artist probably is not gonna keep writing because you just get
Yeah.
bored. Like I didn't
Yeah.
used to get the whole writer's block thing. I never used to understand like why did Eminem take 5 year break? And now I get it. It's like you get like you get creative block or you get like less infused or you need time away, and then when you come back you're inspired again, you're motivated, and you've got something to
Mm.
contribute.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
but let's get back to you. I found this interesting, so I want to see where we go with this. Talk us
Mm.
behind the story behind the song you are most proud of.
Oh. Er. Um. Song I'm probably most proud of at the minute, I think would be the track 3 a.m., which is one of the ones off my new album, like one of the later songs on the album. Because that sort of ties into what we were talking about before with like nostalgia and stuff like that. Um, and I defo like I was just like the moment I wrote it, I was like, I want to record this like so bad. I literally like put it straight up onto YouTube. I knew I wanted that one to be in an album, so I just felt the most like attached to it. And I was just really happy with the way like the sound of it came out, like all the sort of like lush, like I mean it was on MIDI, but like MIDI like string sounds and like it was just so atmospheric and it just still like brings me that very like specific nostalgic feeling of what I was like writing about with that song. That's definitely one of my favorite ones off the album. And as well over the weekend, I did with like a video like production company, and we recorded a music video for it, and it was like the first like proper like thing I've ever done like that. It was the people who like did it. They were so like lovely, really like incredibly creative. Had like planned the whole day out. They were just absolutely amazing. And now I'm like, oh, and as well with that song, I was like, that is the one I like want to do a music video the most for. I've just got an idea of what I want it to be in my head, and then it actually happened. I was like, well, that's madness. But yeah, so I'm like really looking forward to seeing that music video now. Can't wait. Cool.
What kind of themes do you typically explore with your lyrics?
Um, Defo, nostalgia, main one. Probably just feelings of like maybe where I'm feeling something and the other person isn't, or maybe where like I can't communicate something, or maybe I'm like struggling to like get something out, and then maybe getting it out. Are you still alone when you're writing the song? Is like maybe that's just one way as well. I don't know what the right word to use for that
Hmm.
would be. What else? And defo just like feelings of like love, whether it be like platonic love or just like romantic love, are like the biggest themes I am inspired by when I'm writing songs. Just pretty much all of them.
Awesome. Um, as we move it forward, got a couple of questions to ask you that I ask every guest. Intrigued to get your thoughts on these questions. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. One that's come to the top of my head, defo, was a piece of advice where which relates to being like an artist in the music industry. You've got to just you've got to take yourself seriously. You've got to be there for yourself because I mean you can't expect anyone else to really when everyone's doing their own thing. I mean, people are always willing to help out, be there for you, work on things with you. But I feel like if you don't take yourself seriously, then no one else is. And I mean, you've got to just, if you actually want to do music, especially that part of music, you've got to just really try and be there for yourself and not kind of like half-hearted type thing. I hope I said that well. But yeah, that stuck in my brain when someone gave me that advice. So I was like, yeah, that's so true. You gotta kind of like put out what you wanna be sort of seen as, or people are just not really gonna give a heck. You know what I mean? So that for sure.
When I really think about it, you have to take a real big gamble on yourself, and it is scary.
Yeah,
Like I don't often sit and think about how I'm perceived because I know if I did,
mm.
I'd probably start freaking the fuck out. But
Yeah,
at the same time, like I totally agree with what you're saying. Like you have to be your biggest fan because
yeah,
who is going to do it for you? Like you might get friends sometimes, you know, promote you or say a good word, and I've had that, and thank you so much to everyone who's ever
yeah,
shouted me out, supported me, etc. I do appreciate it, but the reality is, like you said, you got to show up for yourself. You got to throw yourself out
mm.
there. You got to keep trying, and there's going to be a lot of failure. There's going to be a lot of rejection. There's going to be a lot of crappy comments. There's going to be, everyone's got something to say, but what are you trying to say? And
Mm.
I think that's the important focal point, especially as a musician. You know, you're putting this out there, it's going to divide people. You're going to have your fans. You're going to have people that care. You're going to have people that don't care. You're going to have people that hate, people that
Yeah,
love, etc. But the only thing that really matters is that you're getting it out there and doing your thing. And like,
yeah,
I feel like, for example, with you and your career, the best thing you could ever do is just keep being you. Because that's what people were, falling in love with your music and stuff. Like that's what I loved about it. When I heard those tracks, it's only me to blame, and also Rollerblade. I really like that song as well.
thank
Um,
you.
I feel like with those tunes, other than them being good tracks, and I feel like there's been a step up in your songwriting, and I don't know, maybe you're on like a creative wave now that's different from previous times.
Yeah,
Maybe you're feeling yourself more confident. I
yeah,
don't know what it is, but whatever it is, keep it up. um, but I think the thing that really comes across with the whole thing, not just the music, but also like the images. Like guys, if you go listen to Mary's music on like say Spotify or Apple, and you see like the imagery, the videos, there's a picture of you that stands out in particular. I think
Oh,
it's either rollerblade
yeah,
or it's only me to blame, but it's
yeah.
of you like running through like some sort of, I don't know,
Oh,
flowers. I don't
yeah,
know. I can't explain
yeah,
it.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
those like beautiful
Yeah, I know what you
flower
mean.
tunnel things. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
like you run in, you got a smile, and it's like it puts forward your personality in a very interesting way. Um, and I think that is the draw right there.
Oh,
It's like when you can get that from an artist, that's what separates them. And I know I covered this earlier, but like specifically with you, there's something there that you're tapping
mm,
into, and I think it's just important to keep tapping into that because
wow.
that's where the magic is. So we'll move it on. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Um, Biggest life lesson. Defo, I think you've got to just like push yourself to do things that make you uncomfortable, even if it is like a super tiny thing or like a massive thing. Like, for example, I don't know if this is just really silly, but sometimes I get anxious like just going like outside by myself because I'm like with what you were saying before, like being perceived or just like being out in the public. And when it's really busy, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm stressed. All these people, you feel like you can't fully like kind of like be yourself or relax in that way. So I think doing small scale things like that, which is probably a silly one, and then bigger things for me personally, like performing, like open mic nights, gigs, like support slots. That makes me feel like excited because I want to do it, but also super uncomfy just because it makes me so anxious singing in front of people. Like I'm fine, like playing guitar is like fine, but like singing, and like what you were saying before, because like you're singing such like personal, intimate things as well. There's that whole aspect to it as well. Like it just, oh my God, it's terrifying. Like I've literally only done like a handful of actual gigs, but every time before I've got onto like the stage, I've just been absolutely like shitting myself. But I mean, you're you're only gonna be like uncomfortable for so long, and it's like definitely the more I'm doing it, the more used to it I'm getting, and hopefully I can get to a place where I can actually perform well and perform how I see it in my mind. But yeah, just do uncomfortable things as often as you can because that pushes you into new places in life, and that's important. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Wise words. And it's interesting that you mentioned as well, like vulnerability, because, like I said, I was introduced to you and everything you're about through
Mm.
just guitar videos. I can't specifically remember if it was covers or if, I think it was more just you
Yeah.
playing like interesting riffs or whatever. And
Mm.
I always just found that the videos were interesting because of like the way you'd shoot them. Like you looked quite pensive in the videos, and it's quite like in a chill backdrop, and it
Yeah.
kind of gives us a sense of your personality and like almost like you're sitting listening to like your friend play some music or something.
Mm.
But when I heard the music with you singing, that was the first thing I kind of thought was there's a sense of vulnerability there. There's like
Wow.
I don't know if it's just that's what your voice gives off or if it gives off other
Mm.
things, but like it was, and also I'm just really into like spacey chill shit,
Yeah.
so there's that. But that was certainly what came across, and I think it's, I couldn't agree more. Like you got to
Mm.
force yourself, guys. If you're listening, put yourself out of the comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
go into the unknown, because that is where you will truly find who you are and what you're
Yeah.
capable of. And it's so important to be in that place.
Mm.
As we draw things to a close, do you have any upcoming projects or some final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Mm. Um, Upcoming projects. Definitely what I just slid in before about the music video. I have no idea when it'll be out, but I promise it will be so cool and incredible and amazing because the people who made the music video are incredible, amazing, and put so much of their creativity and time into it. Like I'm just thrilled that I had the chance to work with those guys. They were called Village Tale Productions, by the way. I just realized I should have like that should have been the first thing I said. Um, so there's that, which will hopefully be out some point soon. And I've got only a couple gigs lined up, but they are all Liverpool based. One is like a super chill, like stripped backed one, in a new place called Artifact, which is in Liverpool, and then a couple other ones are like later down the line, which are both again in Liverpool. In I think they're both in Leith, which is down Bald Street. I still don't know if I want that to be acoustic or if I want it to be full band because I'm still trying to get both sounds kind of there. And final parting thoughts. I don't even know. Um, Defo, just gonna go with the do uncomfortable things because that like all the uncomfortable things like that's just like on the other side of what like you want to be. It's like you want to get what's in your head out into your life, and the only way to do that is annoyingly by being uncomfortable, and that is just a fact of life.
It's
So I
spot
think that,
on. It's like I went to do a trial shift the other day for just like
yeah,
some small job, and I didn't
mm,
want to go. I felt uncomfortable.
yeah,
But then I got there and like everyone's really nice and it's a
yeah,
good vibe. And I was like, if I'd have just listened to my feelings, I just never would have done that. Like,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
you got to do that. You got to push yourself out there.
Hmm.
And like over the last 4 years, I've had some amazing experiences because of this very reason. Just
Yeah.
throwing yourself out there and seeing what the world has to offer.
Mm. That's the thing, like things happen that you don't even realize that your brain doesn't even think of is going to happen in that time because you're too wrapped up in thinking about how scary and anxious you feel about it. But then unexpected positive things always happen. Like it's just great.
Massive, massive thank you for appearing on the show. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm
Oh,
stoked to have got to finally chat to you. So thank you so much.
oh, thank you to you as well. It's been awesome. It's been so lovely talking to you, and I'm so happy you like wanted me to be on your show. Like
Of
that's so
course.
cool. Thank you so
Absolutely. You're always
much.
welcome in the future. Let us know. Yeah, let me know if you're in Manchester and I will definitely be
Oh yes, I
there.
will. Hopefully soon. I love Manchester. Have to get some gigs there somehow.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. And to the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, I keep forgetting the plug. So here's the plug. Make sure you join the Discord. There's a Discord now for all things me related. The Patreon as well, for the Patreon exclusive series Life with Christian Reeve, patreon.com/Christian Reeve. And yeah, just let me know if you like this episode and who you'd like to see on the next episode. Let me know what topics you want to be discussed. Make sure you go out your way to check out Mary Hennessy. You won't regret it. It's amazing. She has my personal endorsement. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Be well. And I'll see you in the next one.